So according to this scenario, there is a 13-year-old Alex that happens to be your sibling who has who has been given a smartphone, and you are the information security expert here, and your responsibility is that of managing risk around how this smartphone is being used by Alex and some protections. Alex's phone contains chat apps, social media, some school files, because your parents thought that it's good because the school needs, to be able to share information with Alex so that on days when he's at home he can still study. It's got some personal photos that Alex takes, and uh, there is the family email that you guys use to communicate general things that concern you, Alex, and the parent. So, in this guiding process, there is a parent that is expected to play like a guiding role, and then you are the senior sibling. Alex is the minor, and in terms of context, the parent can make decisions on how Alex will use the phone, but the parent has no technical ability or competence to enforce whatever decision they are taking with respect to Alex. So the responsibility in terms of technical ability falls on AJ, and AJ is who you are. Is the scenario clear for everyone? If you have a question with respect to the scenario, ask, because we're about to get into that thing now. Uh, has everyone joined the mentee? You guys should join, because in the next steps, you will be expected to give some input. So when everyone has joined, just say joined, and then I will proceed. Great. Emmanuel, Sule, please join fast. Okay. So that's some guidance. The data owner is the one that decides how access controls and rules should be implemented. This is from the slides that you already have. The data custodian is the one that maintains the security settings, the backups, and the updates. And the data owner and the phone owner in this case is the one that uses the phone on a daily basis. Okay. So how much do you agree or disagree with the following assertions? So if you agree, you would pull the thing to the right. If you disagree, you will keep it to the left. So let's get going. And feel free to take a look at your PowerPoint that was shared with you to see if you can get some inspiration from that, because this is conceived with that in mind. It's a sort of a working session to permit us understand how all of these bits fit together when it comes to the real job. There's one more person that hasn't effected this yet. Sule, did you finally join? Okay. So who has not yet done this selection? That means that we're still waiting on Sule. Okay, great. Everybody now has submitted. So the first question is that the parent is the data custodian, and the results show that averagely two of you agreed and then somebody disagreed. So what do you think? Is the parent the data custodian or not? And why? Okay. So in terms of who the data custodian is, the ball is not even in the court of the child. It's between the parent and AJ. Okay, that's the first one. I see that everybody has, we'll come back to it in a bit. I see that everybody has agreed on the fact that Alex is the data subject. That's clear enough, right? The data subject is just the entity about which information is being collected. So everybody agrees on that. Where there is a divide now is with respect to custodian or owner. I'll go back to the previous slide and show you who is the custodian. So in this case now, who was the custodian? Was it AJ or the parent? Because the narrative says that the parent does not have any technical competence. All right. And obviously, the data owner is the one that makes the decision with respect to how much control the child Alex should have or not. So technically, the parent is more experienced in terms of the happenings of life, in terms of what can go bad and all that. He is able to use his experience to make decisions. That's how the CEO of the company and like we saw yesterday, the CEO, there's a board that has been elected by shareholders. Then this board designates a CEO because they feel that the CEO has mastery, and then the CEO will have to take decisions on behalf of the company. But the truth is, the CEO will not necessarily have the technical competence. That's why there is the IT department that will be responsible for enforcing most of the implementation aspects of the decisions that the CEO is taking. This is within cybersecurity now, and custodian has a slightly different connotation from what it would have in everyday life. Okay, that bit is clear enough, right? So I'm guessing that you guys can now see how this is connecting back to the slides that we shared. So we're going to the next stop now. What is it going to be? There's free room for you to suggest. How much do you think the phone cost? And you're entitled to your opinion. Okay. In dollars. In dollars. If they say enter a word, I'm thinking if you write even a digit, it would go right. Yes. Did it refuse? Did you write the digit and it refused? Yes, if you, it's a word now. A word is supposed to have a combination of characters. You guys are taking time on this one, which is not where the phone is. The phone is actually in front. Okay, good. Somebody said 2000. Mm-hmm. Almost. I would say for this exercise, let's assume that the phone cost $1,000. Okay. So what's the private data you think could be on the phone? Yep. Yeah, just in one word descriptively. You can even use an abbreviation and tell us what the abbreviation is. Again, like I said, the fun is ahead because this is preparing the grounds for us. We're adding some context to the problem situation. Mail, personal. Okay, you would add some context to what personal is, I believe. Location data. Good. Location data that's self-descriptive. Passwords, explicit. Photos, explicit. Personal. Whoever said personal, is it okay if you told us some more space, gave us some specifics? Okay, interesting. Um, let's just have a brief conversation there. Would in this day and time, if you were handing a phone to your sibling, would you advise that they should keep passwords in text messages or somewhere in the phone itself? Because personally, I would rather have my password in my head or in a password manager than save them in the phone. I saw a lady come to Orange Cameroon in Boya. She was so tense. And why was she tense? She was tense because to her it was so difficult to memorize her Orange money pin. So she put it on her phone, and then the phone was stolen. And she had money about almost 500,000 in her phone, in her mobile, in her Orange money. So, what are some of the threats do you think are associated with Alex's phone? So, you might agree with these ones or you might disagree. So if we do it faster, we'll move from here so that we can go because there's some calculatory aspects on the thing that are always showing up in the exam. Okay, I think by far most of us agree that these are threats that could be associated with Alex's phone. Okay, fair enough. Now, what are some vulnerabilities that could be associated with Alex's phone? So for each of those threats, what are the vulnerabilities that those threats could have taken advantage of? This will help you also to have the difference between a threat and a vulnerability. You already saw what the threats are. So what are the vulnerabilities? So what you can do to ease the task for you, you can think about each of the threats and then think about what could make it possible that this threat manifests on the phone. If you think about it in that way, chances are very high that you will just end up with the correct vulnerability. If it is still not easy, I can give you a few suggestions. Josule, do you want me to give you a few suggestions? Okay. Somebody talked about weak passwords. Excellent. Submit all the same. When you submit, it will grow bigger. Malicious application. Well done. Uh, this thing, public Wi-Fi. They are using public Wi-Fi where you just basically join the Wi-Fi without specifying any username and password thing. Well done. Waiting for the last person. Somebody talked about less control. Okay. Um, can we put a context to the less control aspect of the thing? Because we are not in your head. These other ones they're straight up. Okay. I mean that the answers are all in the good direction. Okay, but some of you were thinking too far away from the problem, so much so that you were looking for answers from afar when the answers close. Number one, I'll give you a few vulnerabilities. Maybe the Alex's phone does not have a pin or pattern. Maybe it's totally absent. That's a vulnerability, right? So anyone in his class, when he shows up in class and puts the phone in his pocket, anyone can pick it up and go in and do anything because there's no pin, there's no password. The other vulnerability is that there is a pattern that is easy, maybe like there's just an L, okay? And everybody sees him doing that. So somebody gets his phone and then breathes on it like that, and then you see this phone screen showing you something like an L. That tells you that this could be his pattern, and you just repeat it. Another vulnerability is that there is just one way of getting access to the phone. Either it's just a pin, or it's just a pattern, or it's just a fingerprint. Meanwhile, you could actually have a multi-factor authentication. Like in my phone, for instance, I use my fingerprint to unlock it. I also have a PIN, that is set up. So the PIN mandates that every 72 hours you must enter the PIN, which means that even if you try to use the fingerprint and you are using the correct fingerprint, after 72 hours, you will not be allowed to log in except you put in the PIN. So that's extra level of security. So that means that even if I was sleeping and then that 72 hours has elapsed and maybe my son is trying to get into my phone and takes my fingerprint and puts, they'll tell him that no, 72 hours have expired, please put the PIN. Facial recognition is good, but I have a funny story on facial recognition that happened when I was using a Samsung phone, and at that time, Babila, I was at Pia. You know what happened? I said facial recognition, and then do you know Eugene Egbe? Eugene happens to look like me a little bit. So Eugene took my phone and then he noticed that I was having facial recognition. So what he did was he knows that he looks like me a little bit. So he did various gestures on his face. He twisted his face, he smiled, and one of those opened it. So the problem that I have with facial recognition is that if you have two identical looking twins, one of them can trick it. But I think for iPhone, they've taken it up the next level whereby with the facial recognition thing, your eyes will have to be open so that they can scan the thing from your eyes. Your picture for facial recognition, no, it has to be a live face, I believe. I didn't configure that expressly. The app came with that functionality, but I believe that there are lock apps that you can also install from Play Store that will add that functionality if your phone doesn't have it. Yeah, so you can. Yes. Mm, yep. Yep. I think on Play Store you should have an app. Well, actually, I'm using a Redmi 13, so that's their default. That if you chose that you are using the digital biometrics, it will mandate that because you're using biometrics every 72 hours, you should enter the PIN. Okay, great. So you should have that functionality. Good luck with that. Okay, so these are some vulnerabilities. These are some vulnerabilities that are associated with the usage of Alex's phone. Okay, there's no PIN, there's no lock, there are no app restrictions. In terms of app restrictions, you can set like a parental control feature that if you are using an app that is rated 18 plus, since Alex is just 13, he might succeed to download it, but he will not be able to use it because there is AJ that happens to be you, that's the big brother, that's competent enough to be able to set up parental control and then add a password so that if Alex decides to use an app and claims that that app was instructed by the biology teacher, for instance, then you would have to go through the app and see if it actually has those features that the biology teacher says it has, and then you will approve that he can use it. Otherwise, he cannot use it. The other one is about clicking unknown links. Okay. Alex is texting with his friends and they're sending him links. If he clicks on unknown links, it can take him somewhere and installs bad stuff. So That's a vulnerability. Another one is that he's he's currently able to download applications without any limitation. If you can install an app on the phone that is a system level kind of application that ensures that each time he's about to download an application, you should be notified to approve or to disapprove. That would help. Also, if you can work on the settings of the phone such that he should not be able to install applications from unknown sources, that will help. Right now, everything is Android, and everybody is in the West now where internet is easy. When smartphones started, I mean, some of us we used to. I was like the elite in my area, where people would come to me, and then I would move APKs from my phone and then install in their own phone because they could not have for internet. Those kind of things are no longer gone now. But to install an APK like that without downloading from Play Store, by default, your phone will object to that. So to get that to happen, you have to go now and check that it should install applications from unknown sources. And that's where the bad things can really happen. Another vulnerability is that there is no backups. Okay. Right now, you have your pictures and everything on your phone now. If that phone gets stolen and you've not configured backups to back up this information to your Google Drive, for instance, then you lost all of that. The other vulnerability is that location is always turned on. That means that it can help you to figure out where Alex is, but whoever else has competence might be able to know where Alex is. So if someone wanted to kidnap Alex, they can monitor and track the device and know that Alex bailed from school and is at a friend's house and go there and get him. Okay, now you are giving specific information. The cost of the phone is $1,000, and the threat, the probability, the percentage of it of one of those threats that we outlined earlier happening is 25%. And if this were to happen, we also have the assumption that there is a chance that this can happen up to 3 times per year. Have you taken note of that? If possible, you can make a snapshot of that because you will need these bits in the next calculations. I say, Sule. No, but this one, the good thing about this one is that you're only doing multiplication and you have the formula already on the slides. But I am also nice. So on each of the calculations, I think the formula is displayed to you. Mm. But the exam will expect that by the time you are going for the exam, you know the formula now because you have been using them at least beginning now. So have we copied this information or taken a snapshot? Okay, so let's move. First calculation. What is the asset value? This does not even need calculation. You just have to know it. See, now you've given the answer to everybody. Meanwhile, you're just supposed to put your answer and then let every other person imagine whatever. So you've spoiled the fun now. So going by this thing, definition of asset value, that's the cost of the thing, right? And the thing here is the phone. In your cybersecurity company that you're working, when they talk of asset value, it will be the asset value of a particular something. If it's a phone, if it is a laptop, if it is a printer, it will be the cost of that one. But maybe the asset here is your CEO. So what is the value, the asset value of your CEO? let's have a few reflections about that one. Let's say that right now your CEO, your company, yes, your company is very successful, and the headhunters are after your CEO. So what can your asset value of your CEO be? Um, it's difficult to quantify, but you can attempt to make projections with respect to what it could be, right? Going by his salary, the reputation of his company, the advantages, and all of that, and how much control he has. Because if that's what the bad guys will be looking at, this guy's salary can be in this range. Okay, this guy is running a company of this size. So if we penetrate his accounts and mess them up, then we could have access to a fleet of this and this and this. That's what the motivation will be on the side of the attacker. So on the side of the company, you are sizing him up as an asset and saying, okay, if he is attacked, this is how far things can go. So let's anticipate the best ways to guard against this. So what will be the single loss expectancy for the telephone? So they don't say it again, just calculate and give your own answer. Feel free to take a look at your slides. I think from after slide 50, something like that, you will find all of those there. Okay, I'm waiting for the last person and then we'll move. No worries. You're second guessing yourself. That's okay. Someone is still calculating. Okay, I think we should move now. We'll not wait for the person. So they be careful when you second guess yourself. Asset value is 1,000, right? EF, what is EF? It's 25%. So when you do 25% times that, it just gives you 250. So be careful when you start second guessing yourself like that, Sule. So what is the annual loss expectancy? Now, anybody that says it and it applies from now going forward, if you say anything aloud, know that you buy us drinks. Okay, I believe everybody can see that it's 750 because SLE is what we just calculated, 250. ARO happens to be 3 in our case. So when we do the multiplication, it gives us 750. So this idea came to me last night about putting this together in this format instead of coming to talk through slides to get you to do the thing as if you were the guys. Now, we want to develop the risk register. What is that? It's a record of risk. Okay. Risk register. What is it? Contrary opinion. Okay, you can improve. Okay. Matthew, what do you think? The question is, what is a risk register? Okay. All of you are correct, but your answers kind of are wanting in one thing or the other. If you go to the slides, you will see that the risk register will be a table. It's a matrix. It's a matrix that has various column headers. So for each risk that potentially can exist, you have to fill those column headers. Okay. And one of the column headers is about likelihood, the other one is about impact, the other one is about risk level. Let's draw in on that. What is likelihood? Yes, the probability that that risk, that threat will be taken advantage of. What is impact? Is the consequence of that happening. Okay. And then risk level now. Somebody said to what extent? Perfect. I think I will go with the to what extent. So this is what is happening here. You would realize that in terms of risk, likelihood, and impact, they'll be rated qualitatively, not quantitatively. You would have seen it in the slides. So they will give you a value like low, medium, or high for each of likelihood and impact. And so risk level now is like an aggregation of likelihood and impact put together. So if likelihood is high, impact is high, then obviously risk level will be high. If one of them is high and the other one is low, then obviously final result will be medium. If both are low, then final result is low. Okay, so let's get going. So we are looking at likelihood, impact, and risk level for download of malwares. The assumption is that there is no parental review and there is no sibling control. So everybody says all of them are high, and I totally agree. So that's what our risk register looks like now currently. So on the first column, you have the ID of the risk. We're just giving it some fancy looking name. R1 to say risk 1, R2 risk 2, and so on and so forth. Then we have the asset, which happens to be Alex's phone right now. And then the threat, which can vary. Okay, so in the one case, it is malware that could be installed when Alex attempts to download a game. For the other one, it could be accessing inappropriate sites. As a kid, he might be curious to check out some website that his friend sent a link. Okay. The vulnerability here is that there's no parental review to install applications for those downloads. The vulnerability for accessing inappropriate websites is that there are no browser filters or unmonitored access. So that gives unmonitored access. So any site that he potentially thinks that he can visit, he is able to go ahead and visit it. And so because of that, the likelihood that he ends up with a malware, the likelihood that he ends up on the inappropriate website is high. Now, the impact is sort of medium. Medium because the fact that he downloaded the malware does not necessarily mean that instantly all of family resources get leaked. Instantly, a lot of whatever gets lost. So it's on that basis that this has been rated as medium. But if this phone contains very sensitive information, maybe like social security number of the parent, address of your home, and things like that, and then this actually happens, then you could move it from the medium impact range to the high impact range. And obviously, the risk level now depends on the likelihood and the impact. You see how those things are playing together. And then now, in terms of control, right now, there is no control. But shortly after this, I would task you guys to give me controls for various vulnerabilities and threat combinations. So if I have like a threat combination and a vulnerability, you guys would have to take the responsibility of setting in some control. And then, you know, also the risk owner might vary depending on the scenario. In our scenario, it was easier because a lot of context was put into the scenario to help you figure out who is who. Okay, now looking at the first risk, Alex's phone, there's a malware via a game download. You have to take a decision for that on that risk. And the decision in terms of what we have in the slides, it can take one of four things. It can be to accept or to mitigate or to transfer or to avoid. So guys, tell me what it's going to be according to you. Rank them. Understand that most of the time, you would just have the four options. Are you accepting the risk? Are you mitigating? Are you transferring? Are you avoiding? It's now based on the company's context and culture and all of that, that you would have to see what mitigating with means, what accepting means, what avoiding means, and what transferring means. Okay, someone has already voted that they will mitigate. That's their first go-to. And then after that, they can accept that the malware can be there and do nothing. But with it, so I'm waiting for the two other opinions and then we'll be able to move. Okay. All right. So I think everybody has voted now. Everybody is in favor of the fact that we should add controls, right? I think that is about the best decision that we can take in this situation, except that somebody thinks otherwise. If you think otherwise, tell us why you think otherwise. Let's be creative. One answer is not always correct, right? You can justify your stance, make it lively. Well, I agree that mitigating is the way to go because when we looked at the risk register just a while ago, there were no controls. Okay. So now we want to bring in some controls to get this to happen. So in terms of controls, what are some of the controls that we can bring in? Transferring the risk is not a control measure, it is a risk decision that you are taking. By transferring the risk, what you are saying is that I'm not putting in any control. I'm leaving it. If it happens, I've paid for my insurance. Insurance will cover this. It's like owning a car. If you own a car and you pay your insurance, the truth is, if there is an accident, the company that you've been paying this insurance to should be able to step in and assess the extent of the accident and then pay you indemnity for this. That's how it is. The slight difference between cybersecurity and the vehicle situation is that in the vehicle situation, you actually have the choice to, take some measures, try to put an iron bar in front of your car, and you have the shock absorbers and all of that to reduce the effect of the accident. And then you can still think of the secondary option of actually outrightly going to pay for the insurance. But let's be frank. How many parents are paying for insurance on the phone of their kids? Mhm. Yep, for sure. For most companies, right? For most companies, what in cybersecurity companies, I'm trying to bring pitch like the realistic situation. Uh, the company will look at the potential challenge that can come, and then they would rather go with controls most of the time. It is when the company sees that there is no control else that they can have in this case. In that instance, they can transfer. Like most companies that are using cloud, right? Most of them have gone for the insurance aspect because if you put everything on the cloud, then you are saying that the responsibility of maintaining your cybersecurity technically has been given totally to the cloud guys. If you have gone in for the software as a service option, because in terms of cloud, we saw that there is three options: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. If you have opted for software as a service, then all that you are doing as the user is you're using the software and they are responsible for maintaining and securing and everything. So in such an instance, you take out an insurance policy. If you're using this thing and something happens, insurance pays because with software, you don't have a lot of control. Software as a service, you don't have a lot of control on the thing. So in that instance, opting for insurance might be a way to buy you out. Yep. Mhm. Certainly, that's what I said at the beginning. Adding controls is your go-to. So for the phone in particular, insurance, well, it's just like a backup measure, to be honest, because you are afraid that this thing is out there and then someone comes after you with a legal case, in which case the money you get from insurance, you can use it to pay them off. Mhm. if you had insured this, right, the insurance will pay you for that. But the thing is, how much the insurance pays, is it going to be able to afford to pay for that, the fee that the ransom guys are asking? So that's the challenge. Okay, in terms of avoiding, right, one of the things that you can do here is to take away the phone from the kid completely. But this one, we know that in today's day and age, it's not something that will go well, right? This guy will wear a long face for the next how many months? And when he comes back, he will eat his food and then he will not clean the plates. Also, accepting the risk. When you accept the risk, there are situations in your life where you have thought about everything else, and then you see that it is so expensive to implement. You choose to say, let's accept the risk. Let me give you a classical example. Um, a company has the data center, and their data centers are erected in in Africa. And in the place where these data centers are erected in Africa, there is a 1% chance that there can be an earthquake. Okay. If there is a 1% chance, it means that going by everything put together, in the next 15, 20 years, there may never be an earthquake. So because of that, you can accept the risk and say, let's keep it there. If the risk happens, we deal with it. That's where acceptance comes in. All right. Yes. Is anyone saying anything? There is a 1% chance that the guy can be with the phone without any controls, without anything, and then never gets attacked. Yes, that's a 1% chance. But in this world that you and I are living in, there's a very high probability that that attack will happen. So that's why we don't choose to accept. We rather want to take measures. Okay. So after we have figured out all of these, we have our risk register. These are the next steps. We have made a decision with respect to treatment. That decision that we have made will help us. We need to go back now and update the risk register. So can you tell me, in terms of updating the risk register, what are some of the things that we can do to that risk register that you already had before? This is our risk register. Our risk register is looking like this. What are some of the updates that we can do on this risk register? Current control. Excellent. You guys will make big cybersecurity guys now, don't you think? Uh-huh. So you guys have seen the process. We've gone through analyzing the situation, filling the risk register, and then we realized that there's a decision that we could make based on the current state of the risk register. And the decision is that we should enforce controls. So since there were no controls, we need to come back to the table and then suggest controls for each of these. And after suggesting the controls now, the next thing is that we can recalculate, analyze loss expectancy after the controls are set. Okay. If we recalculate this, the values will be different, maybe lower because we have controls. Okay. So based on these controls that we have put, maybe that percentage of this thing happening will be smaller. So we can recalculate these things and put them out again. And after that, what is remaining is to set a monitoring plan. Why are we monitoring? We want to monitor to see whether the controls that we have put are effective in controlling. If they are not effective, we need to improve the controls. So if you look at it, it might have looked like it's a one-time thing, but you see the fact that there's a monitoring plan and this thing is going stepwise, step, and then a monitoring plan. It means that there is a company that needs you as a full-time employee. In the beginning, it's about setting up risk management and everything. And then after you've set it up, the rest of your job is that of monitoring. So if a company wanted to set up risk management and did not have a cybersecurity department, okay, there are two options. They can set up their own risk management department that will do this, or they can outsource that task. If they outsource the task, one company will do this and then make it available to them. And then based on that, they can choose to continue outsourcing each time there is need to monitor, or they can employ one or two cybersecurity guys now to be monitoring because you will not pay the cybersecurity guys small salaries as well. So you have to make a decision between how much you are able to pay these guys to keep them in the company to be monitoring, or having to hand it out back to a company, outsourcing to a company each time to do monitoring for you. Depending on the size of your business, the nature of the business activity, it might warrant that you should do monitoring every 3 months or every month or every week. So those are some of the elements that the company has to put together then to suggest that we should start up a cybersecurity department. With companies growing the way they are growing and with information and data growing as it is, I would say that even in the next 30 years, there will be need for more and more cybersecurity guys. So that's where we find ourselves now. We've set up the roles, the asset values have been defined, the threats and the vulnerabilities have been ID'd. We have quantitative risk calculated, risk register has been built. We have taken a decision with respect to strategy to treat, and then now we are controlling again, and then we are monitoring from time to time.